Everyone keeps saying there's no housing crash, everything's fine, just buy now before you're priced out forever. Meanwhile, more than half of US homes quietly lost value this year. But sure, totally normal, nothing to see here. Zillow just dropped a report that makes the whole always up narrative look a lot more like a meme than a strategy. And if you own property or want to, you need to understand what actually changed, because this looks less like 2008 and more like a slow, sneaky reset that most people will completely miss until it's too late. Here's the contrast. Headlines are screaming, no crash. Zillow is saying normalization. And at the same time, 53% of homes are worth less than they were a year ago, the highest share since 2012, which, by the way, was the bottom of the last housing crash. So no, we're not in a fire sale territory like the Great Recession, but pretending this is business as usual is delusional. This is what the top of a cycle cooling off looks like in real time. And quick note, if you actually want to see the numbers before the headlines catch up, check out Deal Watch. It's free, and we drop hidden deals and market insights there every week. Just click the link in the description below. All right, let's rewind for a second, because Zillow basically framed this entire report as, look, this isn't 2008, calm down, and they're not wrong. But they're also not telling the whole story. During the early 2000s, we had the classic housing bubble, easy credit, subprime nonsense, and mortgage-backed securities being passed around like a hot potato. That game ended badly, but 2012, home values were down more than 30% from the 2006 peak, foreclosures were everywhere, and that was the true bottom. Since then, a 13-year climb juiced by low interest rates, Fed money printing, and way too little construction. Fast forward to mid-2024 through mid-2025, and the market turned into a rigged game. Inventory was so low, it felt like you needed a golden ticket just to see a listing. The few homes that did hit the market were priced like they came with a free Tesla in the garage. Mortgage rates averaged about 6.7% during that stretch, which absolutely torched affordability for first-time buyers. NAR data showed first-timers falling to just 21% of buyers, and a typical age for a first-time buyer hit 40. At that point, you're not a first-time buyer, you're a late recruit. But here's where it gets interesting for investors who are paying attention. While regular buyers got boxed out, cash buyers and equity-rich owners were doing just fine. Homeowners sat on massive gains thanks to the run-up since 2012. Zillow says the median homeowner has seen about 67% growth in their home's value since they bought. And that's median, not the crazier outliers like Buffalo up 108%, San Jose up 97%, San Diego up 88%, and so on. So when you hear 53% of homes lost value this year, that's year over year from a very frothy peak. Not everyone is underwater again. Now, Zillow's spin is basically, don't panic, this is just normalization. Their data, however, shows that 53% of homes were worth less in October than a year earlier, up from only 14% the year before. That's a huge jump in the share of losers. But zoom out, only about 4.1% of homes are actually worth less than their last sale price. Before the pandemic, the number was over 11%. So compare 2012, when average declines hit 27%, today's average drop from peak is only around 9.7%. Translation, this isn't a crash, it's a slow deflation of the bubble, which is a good thing. Now, that might be bad for over-leveraged homeowners, but the next stat is even more important if you're an investor. Only about 3.4% of new listings are priced under their previous sale price, still below the 2019 level of 5.9%. That tells you two things. One, people aren't yet desperate. And two, a lot of price reductions you're seeing are just sellers walking back from Fantasyland, not going into true distress. So if this isn't a 2008 style apocalypse, why should investors care? Well, because this is exactly the kind of boring, quote, nothing to see here normalization phase where smart money quietly reloads. Retail buyers panic when their Zestimate drops 15 grand. Investors shrug and look for motivated sellers tired landlords, and properties where the math works even without 3% money. Now, before I get into that, there's something you need to understand about rates. Mortgage rates have stayed mostly flat since the Fed started trimming interest rates in September and October. That hasn't magically fixed affordability. It's like your gym dropping your membership from $79 to $72 a month. Technically cheaper, still not getting you abs or saving you a ton of moolah. Demand isn't roaring back because prices never really reset. They just stopped going up as fast. And with rates stuck in the mid-sixes-ish range, buyers still feel squeezed, especially with taxes and insurance jumping in a lot of markets. Meanwhile, inventory is still limited enough that sellers don't feel hunted yet. Zillow even points out that limited inventory suggests most sellers aren't under pressure to slash prices. So we're in this weird in-between zone. Values are slipping for more than half of homeowners, but equity is still strong, and outright distress is more of a trickle than a flood. And here's the part that Zillow won't lean into, but investors should. Normalization is the prequel to opportunity. When over half of homes are down year over year, homeowners feel poorer even if they're not actually in trouble. That perception shift is huge. People who plan to wait for the market to go even higher start thinking about cashing out while they're still ahead. Others get spooked by headlines and decide to list before the crash that everyone on TikTok keeps yelling about. You won't see that in one giant wave. You'll see it in small targeted pain points, specifically metros, overbuilt suburbs, investor-heavy neighborhoods, and markets where prices outran local incomes by a mile. So if you're an investor, you should be paying attention to those segments. Here's the punchline no one wants to hear. A boring, choppy market like this is where disciplined investors quietly build their next decade of wealth. Not when CNN is running housing bloodbath and everyone is starting to panic sell. By the time we get to that point, even if we do, the best deals will already be in the rearview mirror, locked up by people who paid attention when 53% of homes started losing value and everyone shrugged because Zillow says it's not a crash. So the story right now is not everything is fine, and it's not we're back in 2008. The real story is that the market is finally giving up its invincibility costume. Values are slipping off their highs. Affordability is still wrecked for the average buyer. Equity cushions are masking early pain, and volume is shifting in quiet ways that create pockets of opportunity. If you're an investor, that's your cue. Not to sprint blindly into any deal, but to get laser focused on the numbers, the trends in your target markets, and the emotions of sellers who are just starting to feel the sting of watching their Zestimate go down instead of up. Because while homeowners are busy refreshing their Zillow app in shock, the investors who understand this normalization phase are going to be the ones writing offers, negotiating hard, and positioning themselves for the next leg of the cycle when everyone else finally realizes what changed and, as usual, shows up late. And if you smart investors out there want to be paying attention to the right sources, make sure you subscribe to Deal Watch, our free newsletter. There's a link down in the description below. See you on the next one. Bye.